Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. Today we will be covering the following topics. Are you looking to learn about the excretory system? Well, you're in luck. But it is what we are going to be discussing today. Here we can see the excretory system with all the major organs. We're going to focus on the kidneys. The kidneys are responsible for removing nitrogenous waste, also known as metabolic waste, and removing it from the blood. The kidneys are kind of bean-shaped. They're about the size of your fist and located near the rear wall of your abdominal cavity, just above your waistline and slightly protected by your rib cage. The functional unit of the kidney is the nephron. Nephrons are essential in homeostasis because they regulate electrolytes, they maintain your pH balance, and they regulate your blood pressure by maintaining a salt and water balance. Here we're going to look at some of the actions taking place in the nephron. So you can see that the glomerulus is a ball of capillaries that receives blood from the renal artery. Here, fluid and solutes are filtered out of the blood and are forced into Bowman's capsule. Small molecules like urea, glucose, and ions are able to pass through, but red blood cells and larger proteins cannot pass through under normal circumstances. When the filtrate exits the glomerulus, it flows into a duct in the nephron called the renal tubule. As it moves, the needed substances and some water are reabsorbed through the tube into adjacent capillaries. This reabsorption of vital nutrients from the filtrate is the second step in urine creation. At the same time, waste ions and hydrogen ions pass from the capillaries into the renal tubule. This process is known as secretion. The secreted ions combine with the remaining filtrate and become urine. The urine flows out of the nephron into a collecting duct. It passes out of the kidney, into your ureter, and down into your bladder. Urine is about 95% water and 5% waste products. Nitrogenous wastes excreted in urine include urea, ammonia, and uric acid. Ions such as sodium, potassium, hydrogen, and calcium can also be excreted. The normal chemical composition of urine is mainly water, but it also includes nitrogenous molecules that I mentioned, like urea. We can use urine analysis to tell us about kidney function. If there is an increase in the amount of glucose in a person's urine, for example, it could be a sign of diabetes. Diabetes is defined as a disease in which the body has an impaired ability to either produce or respond to the hormone insulin. Insulin is a hormone needed to allow sugar, such as glucose, to enter cells and be used for cellular respiration. Type 1 diabetes is a chronic condition in which the pancreas produces little or no insulin. People with type 2 diabetes have cells in the body that are resistant to insulin. Both types of diabetes can result in abnormal glucose levels in the blood. Keep in mind this narrow range as we move into our next slide. In the previous graph, you saw a small range in which a person without diabetes maintains their blood glucose levels. The ability to maintain a near constant internal environment despite changes in the external environment is referred to as homeostasis. Homeostasis is often maintained by negative feedback systems. Negative feedback is the counteraction of an effect by its own influence on the process causing it. Let's take a look at an example. Let's take a look at the antagonistic relationship between insulin and glucagon. Hormones that act to return body conditions to within acceptable limits from opposite extremes are called antagonistic hormones. Let's start by looking at insulin. The stimulus for insulin is high blood glucose levels. In response to insulin, cells absorb glucose from the blood and blood glucose levels fall back to an appropriate range. On the other hand, when blood glucose levels are low, glucagon is released. This causes the liver to break down glycogen and release glucose back into the blood. This regulation of blood glucose levels is an example of negative feedback, the counteraction of an effect by its own influence on the process causing it. For example, high blood glucose levels promote insulin release. Insulin then lowers blood glucose levels, and then the production of insulin slows. Thank you all for joining me for this video. Please let us know if you have any questions related to the topics covered.